The Confederation of Aligned Worlds had been mapping the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their huge scanning systems reached across 12 spiral arms. Their probes went into the darkest clouds of space. Their powerful telescopes looked into the centers of faraway star groups. In all that time, across all those light years, they found nothing. No old ruins. No sleeping civilizations. No signs of other smart life except their own group of 7 species. The galaxy was theirs, empty and waiting. Admiral Terok of the Valnari stood on the bridge of his ship, the Celestial Dawn. His main eyes watched the holographic display in front of him. His other eyes checked the crew stations. Everything was normal, perfect, just like always. "Admiral," his sensor officer said, his insect-like mouth parts clicking, "we are finding something strange at the edge of the outer reaches. Grid area 447 Beta." Terok became interested. The outer reaches were dead space. Nothing was there. Even space pirates did not go there. "Tell me more." "Energy readings." "Multiple sources. They are big, Admiral, and they are moving." Now Terok was fully alert. Moving energy sources in dead space could only mean one thing: ships. But whose ships? The Confederation watched all civilian traffic. Pirates were tracked down and stopped. Nobody operated in the outer reaches without permission. "Put it on the main screen." The big display changed. Then it showed an image that made Terok stop breathing for a moment. 3 huge vessels hung in the void. Their hulls did not reflect light. They absorbed the radiation from nearby stars like hungry shadows. They were enormous. Each one was easily twice the size of his flagship. Their design was like nothing in the Confederation database. They were angular and brutal. They were covered in what looked like weapons and armor plating. "Unknown design," his tactical officer said, her voice sax swelling with worry. "I am reading power levels that go beyond our limits. Admiral, these ships should not be possible." "Try to talk to them," Terok ordered. "All frequencies. Let them know they have entered Confederation space without permission." The communications officer worked his console. He sent out the standard messages. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The strange vessels kept moving forward. They ignored every attempt to contact them. "Sir," the sensor officer said. There was something new in her voice now. Fear. "I am finding weapons charging. Multiple systems on all 3 vessels." Terok's mouth parts spread in alarm. "Raise shields. Battle stations. Send an urgent alert to..." The first attack hit before he could finish the order. The Celestial Dawn shook violently. Terok was thrown against his command chair. His hard outer body cracked from the impact. Alarms screamed. Control panels exploded in showers of sparks. The lights went out. Emergency lights came on, painting everything in blood red. Shields down to 40%. Someone screamed. "Hull damage on decks 7 through 12. "Return fire," Terok shouted. "All weapons!" The Celestial Dawn's plasma batteries fired back. They launched waves of superheated energy toward the attackers. The shots connected. Bright flares of light burst against the dark hulls and did nothing at all. "No effect," his tactical officer shouted. "Their armor is absorbing everything we throw at them." The second attack hit, and the third. The Celestial Dawn was being torn apart. Her shields were failing. Her hull was breaking under the constant assault. Terok watched in horror as his escort ships were destroyed in seconds. 3 frigates and 2 destroyers became expanding clouds of debris. "Admiral," the communications officer's voice could barely be heard over the chaos. "We are receiving a message. It is audio only, unknown language." "Play it." Static crackled through the bridge speakers. Then a voice spoke. It was deep and strong. The translation computers struggled for a moment. Then they found the meaning. "This is Captain Minho of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. You have fired upon human vessels without reason. This is your only warning. Stand down or be destroyed. Human." The word meant nothing to Terok, but the tone behind it sent ice through his body. These beings, whoever they were, thought his fleet was the attacker. They thought they were the victims here. And from the way they were easily destroying Confederation warships, they had every reason to believe it. "Admiral, orders?" his tactical officer asked. Her voice was shaking. Terok stared at the 3 massive dreadnoughts on his screen. He looked at the power readings that broke all known rules of physics. He looked at the weapons that made his own look like toys. He thought of the empty galaxy. He thought of 3,000 years of going wherever they wanted without challenge. He thought of the proud certainty that they were alone. They had been so very wrong. "Stand down," he whispered. "All weapons. Stop firing." The guns fell silent. The bridge crew stared at him in shock. But Terra kept his eyes on the display. He watched those 3 dark vessels that had appeared from nowhere. They had broken every belief his civilization had ever held about their place in the universe. The silence on the bridge was complete. Outside, the 3 human dreadnoughts hung in space like dark monuments. They did not move. They did not fire again. They just waited. Terra realized something in that moment, something that shook him to his core. For 3,000 years, the Confederation had believed they owned the galaxy. They had explored. They had mapped. They had claimed worlds and systems. They had built their civilization on the simple fact that there was nobody else out there. Now, in the span of minutes, all of that had been proven false. Humanity had arrived, and they had arrived with weapons that could crush the Confederation without effort. "Open a channel," Terok said quietly. "To the human ships." "Channel open, sir." Terok took a breath. "This is Admiral Terok of the Confederation of Aligned Worlds. We cease all hostile actions. We request communication. We did not know you existed. We did not mean to attack." More silence. Then the voice came back. Captain Minho again. "We did not know you existed either, Admiral. We thought this galaxy was empty. We were wrong. Both of us were wrong." And in those words, Terok heard something unexpected. Not anger. Not threat, but something else. Something that gave him a tiny spark of hope. Humanity had arrived. The galaxy would never be the same. But maybe, just maybe, that did not have to mean war. The 3 dreadnoughts remained in space, dark, silent, powerful beyond measure, and the Confederation's illusion of an empty galaxy died forever. The Confederation Council Chamber had stood for 800 years. It was a symbol of unity among the 7 species. Its crystal walls had seen historic treaties and celebrations of peace. Today, those same walls shook with something the chamber had never known before: terror. Supreme Chancellor Vexer walked back and forth on the central platform. All 6 of his limbs moved in worry. Around him, holographic images of the other council members floated like nervous ghosts. None of them looked comfortable. 17 ships, Vexer said. His translator changed his clicks and whistles into standard language. 17 Confederation warships destroyed or badly damaged in less than 1 hour. And we do not even know what we are dealing with. "We know they call themselves humans," said Council Member Thas. Her tentacles coiled nervously. "We know they have technology far beyond what we understand. And we know they are not from any system we have surveyed." "Impossible," said High Commander Drex, the military leader. "We have mapped this entire spiral arm. There are no livable worlds we have not catalogued." "Then where did they come from?" Vexir demanded. "Did they just appear from nothing? Did we somehow miss an entire civilization growing right under our sensors?" The question hung in the air with no answer. Because no one had an answer. The humans had appeared like ghosts. Their ships came from empty space in a region that should have contained nothing but dust. "Chancellor," one of the junior aides interrupted, "we are receiving a message from the human fleet. They are asking permission to meet with council representatives." The council chamber became silent. Vexer felt his main heart skip a beat. "They want to talk?" "Yes, Chancellor. They have given coordinates for a neutral meeting. They are apologizing for what they call the misunderstanding. They want diplomatic talks." Drex's battle armor rattled. "It is a trap. They destroy our ships, then ask for peace talks. They are trying to get us close so they can attack our leadership." "Perhaps," Vexir said slowly. "Or perhaps they really want to talk. Either way, we have little choice. If they wanted to destroy us, they have already shown they can do it." 2 days later, Vexir stood in the airlock of a diplomatic shuttle. He had a small group with him and more security guards than he had ever seen in one place. Through the window, he could see the human vessel coming closer. It was a sleek ship, smaller than their dreadnoughts, but still very large. Its hull had symbols that his translator could not read. The docking was smooth. Almost too smooth. When the airlock finally opened, Vexir found himself face to face with them. Humans. They walked on 2 legs. They were about the same height as Vexir's species, but built differently. More compact. More solid. Their skin came in different shades from pale to dark brown. Their faces had 2 forward-facing eyes. This suggested they came from predator ancestors. They wore uniforms of dark blue with badges that probably showed rank. The lead human stepped forward. Vexir noticed something strange. Despite their obvious physical power, despite commanding weapons that could break worlds, this human moved with care. He kept his hands where they could be seen. His body language was not threatening. "Chancellor Vexer," the human said through a translation device. "I am Admiral Jehoon, commander of the Terran Third Fleet. On behalf of humanity, I apologize for our aggressive first contact. We had no idea this region of space was inhabited." Vexer studied the human carefully. "You fired on our ships without reason." "Your ships fired on us first," Jehoon replied calmly. "Our sensors found weapons charging. We responded to what we thought was a hostile act. It was a tragic misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. 17 destroyed ships, hundreds of dead crew. The breaking of the Confederation's sense of safety. All a misunderstanding." Vexer wanted to scream. He wanted to demand justice. He wanted to call for this human's arrest. But he looked into Jehoon's eyes and saw something that made him pause. Real regret. "Tell me," Vexer said quietly, "where do you come from? How did you arrive here without our sensors finding you? What are you?" Jehoon pointed to a conference room through an open door. "That is a long story, Chancellor. Perhaps we should sit down. There is much we need to discuss." In the hours that followed, Vexer learned things that shook everything he thought he knew. The humans came from a world called Earth. It was located in what they called the Orion Spur. This was a small arm of the galaxy that the Confederation had decided was too poor in resources to explore carefully. Humans had developed alone, never knowing other smart life existed. "We thought we were alone," Jehoon explained. "For thousands of years we searched the stars and found nothing. So we built our ships to take care of themselves. We designed our weapons to protect against any possible threat. We prepared for the worst because we had no one to rely on but ourselves." "You built those dreadnoughts," Vexer said slowly, "without knowing if there was anyone to fight?" "We built them in case there was." Jehoon's face was hard to read, but Vexer thought he saw something like sadness there. "Humanity has a long history of war. We know what it means to almost go extinct. We promised ourselves we would never be unprepared again." Vexer felt cold run through his body. The Confederation had grown in an age of working together. They were surrounded by species that chose peace over war. They had built their civilization on the idea that intelligence meant harmony. The humans had learned different lessons. "So what happens now?" Vexer asked. "You have found us. You have shown us your strength. What do you want?" Jehoon leaned forward. For the first time, Vexer saw him smile. It was a strange thing, showing teeth in a way that should have been threatening but somehow was not. "We want what we have always wanted, Chancellor. We want to not be alone." The meeting lasted another 6 hours. They talked about territory and technology and trade and cultural exchange. Jehoon offered payment for the destroyed ships. He proposed a formal alliance, mutual protection, sharing of resources. He spoke of humanity's desire to join the galactic community, to learn from species more experienced in peaceful cooperation. And through it all, Vexer could not shake the feeling that everything had changed. The galaxy they thought they knew was gone, empty, peaceful theirs. In its place was something new, something uncertain. A galaxy where humanity walked among the stars, with their dreadnoughts, with their weapons, with their history of survival at any cost. The question was no longer if they could live together. The question was whether the Confederation was ready for what came next. 6 months after first contact, Commander Hagen of the Terran Colonial Defense Force stood on the observation deck of Outpost Kepler 442. She watched the local sun paint the station's hull in shades of orange and gold. Behind her, through the strong windows, the planet Kepler 442b turned slowly. This was humanity's first colony beyond the Sol system. 15,000 pioneers had left Earth to start fresh among the stars. It should have been a peaceful moment. But Hagen's instincts were screaming that something was wrong. She had 20 years of military service. Those instincts had kept her alive. Commander, her second-in-command, Lieutenant Bora, came up with a data pad. "We are getting strange readings from the outer sensor grid. Multiple contacts moving in formation." Hagen's jaw became tight. "Confederation?" "No, ma'am. The signatures do not match anything in our database. They are not human, and they are not any of the Confederation species we have met. New contacts, unknown species, coming toward a human colony." Hagen felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came before combat. 6 months of peaceful integration with the Confederation. 6 months of careful diplomacy and cultural exchange. And now this, battle stations, she ordered. Launch all defensive drones. Get our frigates into defensive positions, and send an urgent alert to Earth Command. The station changed. Alarms sounded. Blast doors closed. Marines rushed to their positions, checking weapons and armor. The 4 frigates assigned to protect Kepler 442 powered their engines. They moved into a protective formation around the colony planet. 20 minutes later, the unknown vessels came out of faster-than-light travel. There were 8 of them, large and heavily armed. Their hulls were covered in what looked like tribal markings or battle scars. They moved with the confidence of predators. They ignored all attempts to talk to them. Their weapons were already charging, reading massive energy spikes. Bora shouted, "They are targeting the planet." Agent did not hesitate. "All ships, weapons free. Defend the colony!" The frigates opened fire. Their railguns launched metal projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The defensive drones flew forward. Their smaller weapons created a deadly web of fire. The station's own weapons added to the attack. The space between them and the attackers became a storm of destruction. The unknown vessels fired back. The battle was brutal and one-sided. The attackers' weapons were powerful, more powerful than the Confederation's, though not quite as good as human technology. But they had numbers, and they fought with savage determination that showed experience. One by one, the defensive drones were destroyed. The frigates took terrible hits. Their shields began to fail. Hagen watched her defenses fall apart. She calculated odds and outcomes with the cold thinking of a combat veteran. They could hold for maybe another hour, 2 at most. Then the attackers would reach the colony. 15,000 civilians would die. Unless... "Ma'am," Bora said urgently, "we have an incoming message. It is from a Confederation fleet. Chancellor Vexer himself is asking permission to help us." Hagen's mind raced. The Confederation had ships in this area. She knew that. Part of the treaty involved joint patrols and information sharing. Mutual defense. But would they really risk their own forces to protect a human colony? They had no obligation to fight. This was not their battle. And yet here they were asking permission to help. "Tell them yes," Hagen said. All help gratefully accepted. The Confederation fleet came out of faster-than-light travel like avenging angels. 12 ships led by Admiral Terok himself, the same Valnari officer who had faced humanity's Dreadnoughts 6 months ago. His vessels immediately attacked the enemy. Their plasma weapons and missiles added to the defensive fire. But Hagen noticed something. The Confederation ships were fighting differently than they had in their first meeting with humanity. They were more aggressive, more coordinated. Their tactics showed a new edge that had not been there before. They had learned from their mistakes. Together, human and Confederation forces turned the tide. The attackers found themselves caught between 2 walls of fire. Their initial advantage disappeared under the combined assault. One by one, their ships fell. Some were destroyed. Others were crippled and drifting. The last 3 vessels saw the battle was lost and tried to flee. But Hagen had positioned 2 of her frigates to block their escape route. There would be no survivors to report back. No warning to whoever had sent them. When it was over, when the last attacker had been reduced to debris, Hagen stood in the quiet of her command center. She felt something shift inside her. For 6 months, she had doubted the alliance with the Confederation. She had questioned whether beings who fired first and asked questions later could truly be trusted. She had prepared for betrayal, for conflict, for humanity to stand alone once again. She had been wrong. A communication request came through. Admiral Terok appeared on her screen. His alien features somehow seemed less foreign now. "Commander Hagen, are your people safe?" "Thanks to you, Admiral. We lost some ships, but the colony is safe. 15,000 people owe you their lives." Terok's mouth parts spread in what humans had learned was a Valnari smile. "We protect our own, Commander. That is what allies do. Our own." The words had deep meaning. After 6 months of careful diplomacy, of cultural exchanges and trade agreements, of careful cooperation, after all that, it had taken a battle to prove what treaties could not. They were not alone. They were not strangers in a hostile galaxy. They were allies bound by more than words on a document. They were bound by blood spilled in defense of each other. "Admiral," Hagen said. "Who were they? The attackers?" Terok's expression became dark. "Raiders from the Voidborn Collective. They have been attacking the Confederation for decades. They strike isolated colonies and run away before we can respond. Normally we lose entire settlements to them, but not today. No, not today. Today they learned that attacking Confederation space means attacking humanity as well. And that, Terok's mouth parts clicked with satisfaction, is a lesson they will not soon forget. As Terok's fleet left and the station began damage repair, Heijin looked out at the stars. She thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had arrived in a galaxy they thought was empty. They had brought their weapons, their paranoia, their readiness for war. Now they had found something unexpected. Not enemies, but friends. Not a galaxy to conquer, but a civilization to protect. And for a species that had spent thousands of years preparing to stand alone, that made all the difference. The Dreadnoughts were still there. Still powerful. Still ready. But now they served a different purpose. Now they defended more than just humanity. 2 years into the alliance, humanity had become a real part of the Confederation. Joint research facilities orbited 36 worlds. Mixed crews served on patrol vessels. Human technology had changed Confederation defenses. Alien knowledge had helped humanity understand the galaxy's economy and politics better. But in a secret briefing room deep inside Earth's military command, Fleet Admiral Soo-hyun was learning that peace had a price. The Voidborn Collective is gathering forces, Chancellor Vexir explained. His holographic form walked back and forth nervously. Our intelligence says they are preparing for a major attack. Not raids, not piracy, a full-scale invasion. Around the table, the gathered admirals and generals looked grim. Soo-hyun leaned forward. She studied the tactical display showing Voidborn fleet positions. The numbers were frightening. How many ships? She asked. We estimate 300 to 500 warships, Vexir replied. They have been building power in the outer territories for decades. We thought they were just pirates. Scavengers picking at the edges of civilization. We were wrong. They are an organized military power, and they are coming for our core systems. 300 to 500 ships. The Confederation had maybe 200 vessels that could fight against that kind of force. Humanity could field another 75 if they called up every combat-ready ship in the fleet. The math was brutal. They would be outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. When? Soo-hyun asked. 6 months. Maybe less. They are waiting for their shipyards to finish the last batch of Dreadnoughts. Vexir paused. His next words were heavy with meaning. Admiral, they know about humanity. They know about your weapons, and they are building specifically to counter them. The room became silent. For 2 years, humanity's better technology had been a shield for the entire Confederation. Their Dreadnoughts were the ultimate threat, the promise that no force would dare attack. Now that advantage was being taken away bit by bit. General Daeho, head of Earth Strategic Command, spoke up. We always knew this would happen. Technology spreads. Advantages fade. The question is, what do we do about it? We fight, Soo-hyun said simply. We call up every ship. We strengthen every key system. And we prepare for the biggest military fight in either of our civilization's histories. Admiral, Vexir said carefully, the Confederation Council is divided. Some members believe we should negotiate, offer the Voidborn territory and the outer systems in exchange for peace. They argue that a war would destroy both sides, that millions would die. Soo-hyun stood. Her presence commanded the room. Chancellor, humanity has experience with this situation. We have faced extinction multiple times in our history. We know what happens when you negotiate with conquerors. When you try to buy peace with territory, what happens? Vexir asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. They take what you give them. Then they come back for more. And they keep coming until there is nothing left to take. She turned to face the hologram directly. The Voidborn are not attacking because they need resources or because of some political argument. They are attacking because they believe they can win. The only way to stop them is to prove they cannot. The next 6 months were a storm of preparation. Every human shipyard went into maximum production. They made new vessels constantly. The Dreadnoughts got extensive upgrades. Their weapon systems were improved. Their armor was made stronger. Ground forces trained for planetary defense. Marines practiced boarding actions. Engineers developed new tactics, new strategies, new ways to use every possible advantage. And through it all, Soo-hyun worked with Confederation military leaders. They built a unified command structure. Humans and aliens trained together. They learned each other's abilities. They practiced the complex dance of coordinated fleet actions. It was Admiral Terok who came to see Soo-hyun 3 months before the projected invasion date. He found her in the quiet of her office aboard the command carrier Indomitable. "Admiral," he said. His mouth parts were held in the neutral position that humans had learned meant serious concern. "I wanted to ask you something. Personal." Soo-hyun pointed to a chair made for Valnari body shape. "Of course. What is on your mind?" "Why?" Terok asked. "Why are you helping us? This is not humanity's fight. The Voidborn are not threatening your core worlds. You could withdraw to your own territory. Let the Confederation face this alone. Instead, you are putting your entire fleet into a war that may cost you everything." "Why?" Soo-hyun was quiet for a moment. She thought about her answer. "When we came to this galaxy, we expected to find enemies. We prepared for conflict, for rejection, for having to fight for our place among the stars. Instead, we found friends." She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth, tiny and blue against the void. "For all of human history, we fought each other. Nation against nation. Belief against belief. We nearly destroyed our own world multiple times. Do you know what finally united us?" Terok shook his head. "The understanding that we were alone. That there was no one coming to save us. No older civilization to guide us. No galactic community to join. We looked at the stars and saw only emptiness. So we learned to work together because the alternative was extinction." She turned to face Terok. "Now we have found something we never dreamed of. A civilization that chose cooperation over conquest. Species that built something beautiful together, and the Voidborn want to destroy that. They want to return the galaxy to constant warfare, where the strong eat the weak and cooperation is weakness." "We will not let that happen," Soo-hyun said firmly. "Not after spending thousands of years fighting to escape that exact fate. The Confederation gave us something precious, proof that intelligence does not have to mean conflict, that different species can choose peace. We will defend that with everything we have." Terok's mouth part spread wide, a gesture of deep respect. "When we first met, when your dreadnoughts appeared in our space, I thought humanity was our doom. I was wrong. You are our salvation." "We are allies," Soo-hyun corrected, "and allies stand together." 3 months later, the Voidborn came. They came from the outer dark in a massive wave. 417 warships. They ranged from quick fighters to massive dreadnoughts that were bigger than anything the Confederation had ever built. They came with overwhelming force, with confidence, with the certainty of conquerors who knew their victory was sure. And they found humanity's dreadnoughts waiting. 45 human dreadnoughts formed the core of the defensive fleet. Their dark hulls bristled with weapons. Their reactors burned at maximum output. Around them, 212 Confederation vessels took their positions, not as support units, not as junior partners, but as equals in a unified force. From the bridge of the Indomitable, Soo-hyun looked at the approaching army. She felt a cold certainty settle over her. This would be the defining moment. Win here and the Alliance would survive. Lose and both civilizations would fall. The battle was about to begin. The Battle of Kepler Sector would be remembered as the turning point in galactic history, not because of its size, though the combined fleets had over 600 warships, but because of what it meant. 2 ways of thinking about civilization, 2 approaches to existence. They were clashing in the void. The Voidborn struck first. Their opening attack lit up the darkness with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Hundreds of missiles and energy beams flew toward the Allied fleet. Each one was targeted carefully. Each one was designed to break through shields and shatter hulls. But the human dreadnoughts had been built for this exact situation. Their defense systems had been improved over decades of human warfare. They created overlapping fields of fire that destroyed incoming missiles by the dozen. Their shields were powered by fusion reactors that pushed the limits of physics. They absorbed hits that would have destroyed Confederation vessels completely. And behind them, the Confederation fleet did what they had practiced for months. Instead of fighting directly, they split into fast response units. They used their better ability to turn and move. They flanked the Voidborn formations. They found gaps in their lines. They turned the enemy's numbers into a problem instead of an advantage. Lieutenant Yunbi commanded the destroyer Swift Retribution. She found herself working in perfect coordination with a Valnari cruiser. The alien vessel drew fire. Its shields held just long enough for Yunbi to position her ship for a kill shot. Her railgun fired once. A Voidborn dreadnought died. Its reactor exploded in a flash of white light. "Target destroyed," she reported. She was already picking her next victim. "Valnari cruiser, are you okay?" "We are fine," came Admiral Tarok's voice. The Valnari commander had insisted on leading from the front. He commanded his forces from a cruiser, not a safe flagship. "Thank you for the help, Lieutenant. Shall we find another one?" Yunbi smiled, despite the chaos around her. "With pleasure, Admiral." Across the battle space, similar scenes happened hundreds of times. Human heavy weapons working together with Confederation sensor ships, alien defense systems protecting human carriers, mixed squadrons of fighters coordinating attacks with the precision of units that had trained together for years, not months. The Voidborn had expected a broken defense. Species fighting separately, each trying to save their own forces. Instead, they faced a unified wall, every ship supporting every other. Losses shared equally, victories achieved together, but numbers still mattered. The Voidborn kept coming, wave after wave. They accepted terrible losses to push closer to the Allied lines. Their dreadnoughts, built specifically to fight human technology, began to take a toll. One by one, human ships fell. Dauntless, relentless, indefatigable. Each loss was a blow to the Allied fleet's fighting power. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Fleet Admiral Su-hyun watched the tactical display with cold focus. She tracked losses and gains. She calculated paths and outcomes. They were holding, barely, but the Voidborn had reserves, fresh ships waiting to take advantage of any weakness. She needed something to break the stalemate, an advantage the enemy had not prepared for. "Admiral," her tactical officer said, "the Voidborn command ship has moved forward. They are trying to direct their reserves personally." Su-hyun leaned forward. She studied the massive vessel at the center of the enemy formation. It was heavily protected, surrounded by escorts and defensive screens. But if she could take it out, if she could cut off their command structure, "All dreadnoughts," she sent out, "form on me. We are going right through them." The response was immediate. Every human dreadnought still working broke formation. They gathered around the Indomitable in a wedge shape. 32 ships. Their combined firepower was enough to crack a moon. Their armor was thick enough to absorb punishment that would destroy lesser vessels. "Confederation forces," Su-hyun continued. "We are opening a hole. Follow us through and hit their flanks. Time to end this." The dreadnought wedge moved forward fast, engines burning at maximum, shields overlapping to create a mobile fortress. The Voidborn saw them coming. They threw everything they had at the formation. The space between the fleets became a storm of fire and energy en masse. Weapons firing so thick it seemed impossible anything could survive. The human dreadnoughts punched through. It was brutal. 3 more dreadnoughts died in the passage. Their shields failed under the concentrated fire. Their hulls cracked and spilled air and crew into the void. But the survivors came out on the other side of the Voidborn lines. Their guns were already tracking to the command ship. Their targeting systems locked on. "Fire," Su-hyun ordered. 29 dreadnoughts unleashed everything at once, railgun projectiles traveling at speeds close to light, plasma beams hot enough to boil metal, missiles carrying warheads that bent the laws of physics. All of it hit one target. The Voidborn command ship's shields lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then they failed. The ship behind them stopped existing. It was vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. The effect on the Voidborn fleet was immediate and terrible. Without central coordination, their carefully planned assault fell apart. Ships that should have been supporting each other found themselves alone. Reserves that should have been moving to take advantage instead milled about in confusion. And the Confederation fleet, following the dreadnoughts through the breach, fell upon the confused enemy like wolves. The battle became a rout. Voidborn ships that tried to retreat found their escape routes blocked. Those that tried to fight were destroyed by coordinated attacks. In the end, less than 30 Voidborn vessels escaped. 417 ships had attacked. 387 died. It was the most complete military victory in recorded galactic history. It was also the most costly. The Allied fleet had lost 93 ships. Thousands of crew, human and alien alike, had given their lives. But they had won. They had proved that cooperation could stand against aggression. That different species, working together, could achieve what none could do alone. 3 days after the battle, a memorial service was held at Confederation Central. Representatives from all member species gathered to honor the fallen. Human names were read alongside alien ones. Each life remembered, each sacrifice recognized. Fleet Admiral Su-hyun stood with Chancellor Vexer and Admiral Terok. They watched as the memorial flame was lit, a human custom that the Confederation had adopted to honor their shared dead. 3 years ago, Vexer said quietly, we thought the galaxy was empty. We believed we were alone, the only intelligent life to ever arise among the stars. Now I realize we were never really looking. We were so focused on what we expected to find that we missed what was actually there. Su-hyun nodded. Humanity made the same mistake. We looked for life like ours, for civilizations that thought like us. We never imagined we would find something better. Species that chose cooperation when we would have chosen conflict. We have both learned, Terok added. The Confederation has learned that sometimes strength is necessary, that peace must be defended, and humanity has learned that strength without wisdom, power without control, leads only to tragedy. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the flame dance. Then Su-hyun spoke again. Her voice carried hope. The Voidborn Collective is broken, but there are other threats out there, other forces that will test this alliance. We will face them together. Together, Vexir agreed, not as separate species working toward common goals, but as one civilization, human, Valnari, and all the others, united. Above them in the orbital shipyards visible through the station's window, work continued on new vessels. Not just human dreadnoughts anymore, but hybrid designs, ships that combined the best of both civilizations' technologies, vessels built not for conquest but for defense, not for control but for protection. The galaxy had thought it was empty. Then humanity arrived. They brought their weapons, their history, their scars from thousands of years of struggle. They had expected to find enemies. They had prepared for war. Instead, they found something neither civilization had dared hope for. Each other. And together they would make sure the galaxy never felt empty again.